Putinesque. The hypocrisy is so stark. Ignoring the 20,000-pound elephant in the room. So biased, so unobjective. I'm creating a video related to this because, God forbid, I put a comment into this latest post by Ian Welsh and the trolls come out of the woodwork to attack it with Russian propaganda. And to attack me and my character that Ian Welsh lets through. He lets through these posts that attack me and my character, and then when I respond in kind to tear these people down, Ian Welsh does not allow that post through. So Ian Welsh is a bully. Is a bully just like Putin is and just like Trump is. Same thing. A bully. Anyway, here's the thing. I agree with a lot of what he puts here. But he can be so blinded. Let's read it. America psychopathy continues to stun. Cuba edition. So, as you probably know, America is stopping all fuel from reaching Cuba. They'll be out in days. Tomorrow, the jet fuel runs out, so no more international flights. But the real issue is that no fuel means no diesel tractors, no distribution of food, not enough refrigeration. In a word, famine. This is deliberate U.S. policy. Mexico has sent a couple of ships full of food with a military escort, but that's irrelevant. Without fuel, the food will not get where it needs to go and cannot be preserved. She, meaning Sheinbaum, the president of Mexico, doesn't have the guts to send oil, which is understandable. This is the problem with the fall of the USSR. No one, well, there's been many problems with the fall of the USSR, but perhaps this is just one of them. No one these days has the balls, desire, and ability to stand up to the U.S. when it pulls shit like this. Russia's busy and a lot weaker than it used to be. Russia, this is at the crux of it, folks. So Russia's busy. Busy doing what, pray tell? Oh, yeah, I see. Busy doing exactly what Trump is doing with Venezuela and Cuba, soon to be Canada and Greenland, right? And other locales to be named. Right? Except Trump and the American military are doing it much more efficiently than Russia's doing it in Ukraine. How about that? So far with Venezuela, Trump has been able to pretty much control Venezuela now as a colony with hardly a boot on the ground. And we see the same transpiring here with Cuba. They're going to capitulate. They have to. So he will control Cuba as a colony now with hardly a boot on the ground. And next up is Greenland and Canada. And here's the rub, Ian. And here's the rub, Mark Level. And here's the rub, Mago. It's ordained by you. And all the other supposed and alleged leftists or lefties who have supported Putin all this time. And let me state for the record, I'm not a Zelensky fan. I don't support him. I'm a neutral observer in this completely. I don't have anything here where I'm supporting Ukraine. I'm just calling it as I see it. I'm calling it as I see it. I'm being objective. I'm being fair. I'm being honest. I'm not being hypocritical. So to characterize me as some kind of Zelensky fanboy or that I'm a neo-Nazi supporting the Azov battalion or the right sector in Ukraine, it's a complete mischaracterization. It's a lie. And you know you're weak. and you're on unstable soil in regards to your argumentation when you have to resort to tactics like that. What Russia is doing in Ukraine right now is wrong. It's the same thing Trump's doing with Venezuela and Cuba and Greenland to be, and perhaps Canada. What Trump is doing is Putinesque. And he's doing it much better than Putin, much more efficiently. When you say, yeah, Russia's busy, it's because they're so inefficient in their invasion and occupation of Ukraine. And yes, it is an invasion and occupation of Ukraine. It's not some ridiculous notion of a special military operation. It is an invasion and occupation. It is a violation of the Budapest Memorandum, where Ukraine in the early 90s agreed to give up all its nuclear weaponry and become a non-nuclear nation, according to START, in order to secure its independence and perpetuity. And it was given security promises and obligations related to that Europe and the United States would come to its aid should Russia invade. And when you consider that, the Budapest Memorandum and the promises made, the West's response, be it Europe or the United States or Canada or you name it, has been lackluster at best in supporting Ukraine in its effort to repel the Russian invasion and occupation. So yeah, Russia's busy. Russia's busy and a lot weaker. Yes, it is. A lot weaker than it used to be. Plus, they're basically just off-brand capitalists now. They're not only off-brand capitalists, Ian, they're uber capitalists. They are what ultimately capitalism devolves into, which is kleptocracy. America is nearly there. It's pretty much there. Putinesque, once again. Trump said, I will have it like Putin has it, and I'll have it better. And he does, and he will. This one's rich too. China doesn't care. It doesn't have a navy with enough projection power yet. China doesn't care. China doesn't care. So, do you not get this, Ian? The irony? Do you understand irony? Here we go. The irony here. I'm sorry, look at this. Welcome to the Chinese century. It's such a taunting comment from him, and I took him to task for this in the commentary. And once again, I agree with the majority of his commentary. But there's just this niggling that he does, this taunting. He often presents China as they can do no wrong, or they're the best bet right now. He heralds the Chinese century. And yet, as we just saw, he said China doesn't care. China doesn't care about the dying line that is America, with its last gasp, trying to fight everybody and everything, trying to maintain its pride, its flagging pride. It's okay that China doesn't care, because this is a Chinese century. This is the Chinese century, yeah. He would not allow my comment through in regard to that. He censored it. So I should have made a copy of it. He wouldn't let it through. That's cool, right? Sure is. Let's return. Let's return here. Where were we? So China doesn't care. And it's the Chinese century. So there we go. With the Chinese century equals who cares? Who cares? Growth. Growth. That's what's important. Keep growing. Doesn't matter. Anything else doesn't matter. It's all subservient to growth. And the EU are spineless. That may be changing somewhat, but not fast enough. Yes, the EU is spineless. Everyone else is too weak and too scared. Yep. Like Canada and Mark Carney, for example. An international convoy system with each convoy guarded by military ships from multiple countries might work, but I see no sign anyone is even talking about it, let alone organizing. I think part of the problem here is that, Ian, is that you continue to see everything as nation states. And that is quickly changing. It's been changing, and it's exponential now. It's in overdrive. Global capital, and it is global now, transcends the notion of nation states. And global capital will reflexively move to where it believes the power is. It has no loyalty except to increasing profits. And that's it. No loyalty to nation states. So there is going to be no organizing of a convoy. Global capital is very coordinated these days. You know this, Ian. There's a great deal of collaboration between oligarchs across the globe. It's a global oligarchy at this point. You know this. And if Trump was truly the threat that you think he is, or Putin was truly the threat that, propaganda tells us that he is, neither of these guys would be alive. The global oligarchy has incredible power. It can do away with anybody at any moment, one actor at any moment that would threaten them or their interests, collectively or individually. And so therefore Trump is no threat and Putin is no threat. They could easily do away with Putin if they wanted to. They could easily do away with Trump if they wanted to. They don't. Why? Because they're useful. Both are useful. Global capital approves. And the enforcers of global capital and the global oligarchy, the alphabet agencies, all the various intelligence assets, they're the enforcers. They approve. They're the ones that would do away with Putin if need be, or Trump if need be, but there's no need be there. And so they thrive. So Cubans will starve if Trump keeps this up and Cuba doesn't capitulate and let America choose its government. And we know the end result of this is that Cuba will capitulate and let America choose its government. Keep in mind, while this is all happening, the Trump administration is deporting swaths of Cubans in southern Florida. This is no lie. 1,500 deported back to Cuba. Oh, if only Rubio could be, right? If only Marco Rubio and his extended family, and I mean extended family, could be deported back to Cuba. What about all those Cuban Americans in southern Florida who voted for Donald Trump? Some say the lion's share of them voted for Donald Trump in this past election. And now he's deporting a number of them. 1,500, I heard lately. Who knows what the real numbers are? But I mean, the irony of him doing this with Cuba right now, starving their extended family members in Cuba, deporting them back to Cuba, but not the Marco Rubios of the world. I have a difficult time finding compassion for the Cubans being deported. I can have compassion for the people in Cuba that are being starved, for sure. Sympathy, empathy, compassion. But not for these Cubans in southern Florida who voted for Donald Trump. Ian has another smug jackass commentator, like he has so many smug jackass commentators, these buffoons who fashion themselves as Mensa intellectuals who comment to his comment section. And they're too hoity-toity and too highfalutin to ever respond to anything that I direct at them. They're cowards. Almost every intellectual you will ever meet is a coward. They're cowards through and through. They think they're better than everybody else. This smug jackass comes in there and says, am I a bad person because I have compassion for my MAGA sister? Yes, yes you are. You are, yes you are. Yeah, you are. That's an easy answer. Yes, you are. And you're a bad person for being a smug jackass on the internet, too. You're a bad person for that, too. Amidst all this, you hypocrite. This is why there will never be a revolution, folks. The so-called revolutionaries are being too smug on the internet for there ever to be a revolution. I believe this commentator's name was Elkern or something like that, whatever. Smug jackasses, all of them. Leftists are as bad as the rightists. I would never be involved in any kind of revolution with them because I wouldn't trust them as far as I could throw them. They're cowards. They're turncoats. They'd screw you over in a heartbeat. There can be no successful revolution when that would be your team. And that would be your team, which means that is no team at all. This is a direct result of Trump getting away with his naval blockade on Venezuela. In that case, not letting them send oil out. No one did anything to stop America or even impose a cost. So on to Cuba. Well, I would say yes, true. Putinesque, once again, he's saying to Putin, I can do it. I can do it better. And he is. One could equally say this is a direct result of Putin getting away with his invasion of occupation of Ukraine and no one really effectively doing anything about it, except for just stoking the massive killing and murdering on both sides. The sanctions are a joke. They're feckless, as they always are. They hurt the general population, yeah, but they don't hurt the leadership. It only even you yourself, Ian, said how actually these fascist dictators can game the sanction system and actually, profit from it. China could simply cut off all access to some key manufactured goods like magnets or any hundreds of other goods where they're the only supplier, including goods that the U.S. has to have to make weapons. But this doesn't really matter to them. The Chinese century. So they aren't. That's the Chinese century, folks. And my comment that he censored effectively pointed that out. China, for example, executes thousands of people a year. I'm sure Ian will say, oh, there's no validation for that. You can't really say that you don't. Yes, you can. They execute thousands a year. All right? And then when I point that out in another comment that he let through on another one of his posts, I get attacked with whataboutism. Well, what about America and the carceral system? Yeah, what about America and the carceral system? It's terrible. It's awful. I've spoken out about it in my life numerous times and used as an example of how awful our elites and the establishment are here in America. But that's not what I was pointing out at that moment. I was pointing out China and its thousands of executions and how it greatly affects the dispossessed in China, as a matter of fact. Just like in America, the carceral system seems to affect the poor mostly. In China, their death penalty, their executions every year, disproportionately affect the dispossessed, the poor in China. Well, imagine that. Can you imagine? Gee, how could that be? Chinese century. Or a coalition of other countries could all sanction the U.S. at the same time. But again, no. That's right, no. Because it's a global oligarchy. Perhaps your question is, why should they? I'm glad you asked. Imaginary but helpful reader. Oh, that's cute. Because Trump started with Venezuela, then went to Cuba. Who will he go to next? Maybe Canada. Ian, how about that? Maybe Canada. And all inspired by his buddy Putin. How about that? Putinesque. Something you yourself have championed. You've rationalized and justified Putin's imperialism, providing all kinds of apologia for it, allowing commentators to spread propaganda in your comment section and to bully those who try to counter that propaganda, those who are truly objective and are not spouting propaganda themselves. I recanted on my million or more Russian casualties number that I put forth. When I researched that further, you are correct, and your commentary is correct on that, that there's no way that's an accurate number. No one is verifying this appropriately. But that doesn't mean that, Russia just only 10 Russians have died. I would imagine it's still substantial numbers of Russians, soldiers who have died. I would put that number probably at a couple 100,000 at this point. If I were to be a betting man. I'm not a betting man, but I'm a damn good analyst. And I would say that's several 100,000 at this point. So yeah, you're right about the million. That's ridiculous. But 100,000, 200,000, 300,000, thereabouts in that range? Yes, absolutely. That is feasible. Not only feasible, plausible. And they died needlessly. So yeah, who will Trump go to next? Perhaps Canada, Greenland. There are 4 strategies for dealing with bullies. And keep in mind, folks, bullies includes Vladimir Putin. It includes Vladimir Putin. Putinesque. Join them and beat up their victims, which is what Ian has done in his support of Russia's invasion and occupation of Ukraine, and many of his commentators are doing. He censors my comments. He allows them to beat on me and to personally attack me with ad hominem. And when I try to respond in kind, to throw these pricks to the turf, he censors my comments. So he has joined the bullies and beat up on their victims. Now, I'm not a victim of their bullying. They can't touch me. Their arguments are ridiculous. They fashion themselves bullies. But they're like a flea unto me. We'll call this the NATO strategy, whatever, the NATO strategy. As we've seen, NATO is feckless against Donald Trump right now. If you help them and kiss their ass enough, maybe they won't attack you. Works surprisingly well until it doesn't. Well, that's the point of Putin attacking Ukraine, one of the points. It's to the rest of those states all around there that this is what's going to happen to you if you resist me. Works surprisingly well until it doesn't, says Ian. Ask Denmark about that, or Canada, or, well, the EU as a whole. Fight back. If you're too weak, get together with your friends. Even if you lose, make them hurt. And you might win. Vietnam says, hi, America still cringes every time they hear our name. Vietnam did not win. When are we going to stop this? Unless you understand that winning meant booting America and the capitalists from Vietnam. For a time. For a time. That's the key there. For a time. If that was the objective, then yes, Vietnam won. But winning in regard to defeating America entirely, like, America defeated and Russia defeated and Great Britain defeated Germany during World War II, or America defeated Japan during World War II. No, it's not a win in that regard. And this is important to make this distinction, because a lot of people say Ukraine can't win the war against Russia. Or, I'm sorry, the special military operation against Russia. Clarify that. What do you mean can't win? Of course Ukraine can't win in the sense that, like America defeated Japan, or America and the Allies and Russia defeated Germany. No, it can't win in that regard. It never could. But it can win if the objective is to push Russia back out of Ukraine proper prior to Russia's invasion. Yes, I absolutely think they could win in that regard. Now, is it a Pyrrhic victory? Yeah, because the country's going to be a shambles. It's going to be utterly destroyed in that process. Ukraine will be just a tattered country, seemingly forever after that. And Russia will be weakened substantially accordingly, which, is a head scratcher why Putin would have done this. I always scratch my head about why he would have done this. I thought he was wiser than this. He clearly is not. Scurry like rats into corners and hope they don't pick you as their next victim. Ignore them if you're as strong or stronger than them. Bullies only attack those weaker than them. You aren't. Who cares who they beat up as long as it isn't you? And like I said, you can apply all this to Putin and Russia as well. He's right about all this about bullies. I agree with him completely. But let's call bullies out who are bullies. All of them. Be objective. Don't be biased. Most of the world is picking number 3, scurry like rats. China isn't. They're picking number 4. Who cares if they beat someone else up? They can't do it to us. There's a lot to be said for number 4. As long as you're sure you'll never be weaker than the bully. A safe bet for China right now. And don't give a damn about anybody but yourself. Very good. He finally said it. China doesn't give a damn about anybody else but itself. You're right. And your taunt comes back to play here. Welcome to the Chinese century. That's the Chinese century. China sets the tone. And the tone of the Chinese century is you don't give a damn about anybody but yourself. But number 3, scurry like rats, hoping you aren't the next victim, is stupid. Each successful victimization just whets the bully's appetite, and the more cowardice he sees, the more he pushes people around. Victims multiply. Don't want America, under Trump or another president, to revisit the Greenland situation with amphibious assault one fine morning? Send those convoys to Cuba, or find some other way to hurt America in general and Trump in specific. Not because you care about Cubans or, heck, human welfare. Gaza has revealed you don't give a shit. But because you're protecting yourself by protecting others, setting the precedent that the powerful can't just pick you off one by one. Once again, this completely ignores the global oligarchy and global capital. These people are not loyal, first and foremost, to a nation state. They are loyal to wealth. They are loyal to the global oligarchy, first and foremost. There's overlap there for sure. But when it gets right down to it, it's the global oligarchy that holds precedence. But that would require statesmen with guts, wouldn't it? There are no statesmen. They're all gone. Global oligarchy has ensured that. Ain't none of them in the EU with any power. Right. Exactly. They've gone the way of the dodo bird, Ian. That is gone for good, as nation states soon will be as well. So I guess the Cubans will starve. They will until they capitulate. Just like the Palestinians, of course. in a 100% man-made famine, which the U.S. either caused, Cuba, or which couldn't have happened without American assistance, Palestine. Right. Spot on. And then this, him hearkening back to, Athens and Greece and Aristotle and Socrates and Machiavelli. It's not relevant any longer, Ian. It's not. We are well beyond that now. As an example, it is much more complex than that. So yeah, Putinesque. But I want to point this out about Putinesque, because I was going to respond to this. I did one comment here because I just couldn't take it. But his entire commentary just sat back and not only didn't agree with my take on it, which was principled, a principled take, any reasonable person would agree. This jackass, Mark Level, he told us about Lieutenant Colonel Daniel Davies, who was a critic, who, had several tours of duty in Afghanistan, many accolades and awards related to it, but a critic of it. And this Lieutenant Colonel Dan Davis is, he's a Russophile. He, like Flynn, he likes him some Putin. Like McGregor, he likes him some Putin. It's amazing, all these former military brass who love strongmen. I mean, they love them some strongmen. They do. So they love Putin, and they justify Putin's invasion and occupation of Iraq. I'm amazed at how many there are, and that they're even allowed to do this. My parents turned over their hard-earned tax money to the military, the burgeoning military budget during the Cold War, to fight the communists in a Cold War. And I'm sorry, but to listen to these jackasses now support a former KGB officer, and it's not former, once a KGB officer, always a KGB officer. The KGB became the oligarchs in Russia. All of his KGB friends, Putin's KGB friends, own Russia now, and they're fabulously wealthy as a result of that. And Russia is exactly what you think would happen to a former great power that is now ruled by its intelligence officers. And these jackasses, these former military brass that are now retired in America, are supporting this. I mean, if I had my druthers right now, jackasses like this, Daniel Davis and McGregor and all of them, there are hundreds of them, maybe even thousands of them, they're getting deported to Russia. You can freaking go live there, you freaking criminal thieves. Taking Americans' hard-earned tax dollars under the pretense of fighting communism when you were communist all along, apparently, by virtue of your support of Vladimir Putin? Get out of my face, you freaking commies. I would deport them all to Russia immediately. I don't care whether Russia accepts them or not. They're getting dropped off in Russia. Anyway, he's got to bring this crap up. This faux leftists. Or you know what? Not faux leftists. This is what leftists are. This is what they are. They're authoritarians every bit as much as any rightist. So I had to respond to this. I said, Davis needs to be consistent. I agree with his assessment of Afghanistan. He called it right about Afghanistan well in advance, more than a decade in advance, of America's ultimate withdrawal during Biden's term. I haven't researched it, but I'm curious what his opinion is about the Soviet Union's invasion and occupation of Afghanistan that resulted in the Soviet Union's withdrawal. Was that doomed to failure from the start? For the same basic reasons America's adventure in Afghanistan was doomed to fail? As we have seen, Invasion and occupation don't work. It didn't work for the Soviet Union in Afghanistan, and it won't work for Russia now, and it doesn't work for America either. The outcome is always the same. Failing states, on the other hand, does work. So if that's the true goal, be it Russia or America, under the aegis of some other false justification, well, bravo. Job well done, be it Russia and Ukraine or America and Iraq. FYI, Ukraine clamored for independence from Russia during the Russian Revolution, and in fact declared it before the Bolsheviks ultimately invaded with their Red Army and occupied it and transformed it. And here we have it. Ukraine's Declaration of Independence in 1918 refers to the Fourth Universal on January 22nd, 1918, and Ukraine wasn't alone in this. Poland did, a bunch of other peoples declared their independence at the time because they were under the onerous yoke of Russian oppression via the Tsarist system. And the Bolsheviks nearly just replaced themselves with the Tsarist system. I mean, replaced the Tsarist system with themselves. They became the Tsarist system of oppression. By the Ukrainian People's Republic from the Russian Empire, establishing a sovereign state, though it faced Bolshevik opposition and ultimately Bolshevik conquest, with a symbolic unification occurring the following year in 1919. This declaration marked a crucial step in the Ukrainian struggle for statehood occurring during the Ukrainian Revolution and is commemorated alongside the 1991 declaration as foundational moments for modern Ukraine. So I said this, how about superpowers and former superpowers that still think they are superpowers stop invading and occupying once and for all? How about former military brass who are bored and need an audience, i.e. this Daniels, be consistent and decry all invasions and occupations everywhere at any time versus trying to absurdly justify some whilst bemoaning others? Of course, I said, of course Ukraine cannot defeat Russia any more than Iraq or Afghanistan could have defeated America. As well, Russia cannot defeat Ukraine any more than America could have defeated Iraq and or Afghanistan. And when I say defeated, I mean total defeat, total pacification, and occupation until said country adopts the government and economic system that the occupier, invader and occupier demands. The most Russia can do is fail Ukraine in perpetuity. And in that process, Russia only hurts itself. The more resources Russia directs to the war on and occupation of Ukraine, the less resources available to strengthen and rebuild Russia's infrastructure and social safety net. Russia is crumbling, folks. Their infrastructure is falling apart and they're not rebuilding it. One of the things Stalin did, monster that he was he tremendously built out the infrastructure of Russia under the Soviet Union. It was impressive. All that is crumbling and has been crumbling, and Putin is doing nothing to rebuild it. It's just crumbling. All the while, he's directing resources, blood, flesh, and lucre to failing Ukraine in perpetuity. And it will be in perpetuity, and it'll have to be an effort in perpetuity because Ukraine is going to have insurrectionists forever should Russia continue to occupy it. It will be an albatross around Russia's neck in perpetuity. An economic drag in perpetuity. It will drag Russia into complete collapse once and for all. This is another head scratcher about Putin. Finally, An endorsement from Tulsi Gabbard at this point is beyond embarrassing. This is the same Tulsi Gabbard who believes white evangelical Trump-supporting politicians in Georgia and blacks conspired to steal the election from Donald Trump in 2020, and somehow Maduro was also part of this conspiracy. Tulsi, as you should know, ordered that raid in Georgia. She is an unequivocal nutter, a danger to herself and to all of us. Now, I'm sorry, folks, but this is a great commentary. You really can't disagree with it. If you're an egalitarian, if you're anti-imperialist, not anti-American, don't get the two mixed up, because a lot of people who claim they're anti-imperialist are just anti-American, and they think all imperialism is only American. Only Americans are imperial. No one else in the world is imperial. So therefore, Putin couldn't be an imperialist, which of course we know he is. I would argue China's even imperialist. They do it in a much more clever, soft, velvet-gloved way, but they're imperialist in their own right. And then this jackass came back at me, and I don't even want to read his comment. But it's just chock full of Russian propaganda. He calls me a neo-Nazi supporter, and he thinks that I'm a big Ukraine supporter, that I should go over and fight on behalf of Ukraine. Why would I want to do that? He characterizes me as these people who are big, the big Ukraine supporters, like Jake Bro, for example. I'm not that. I'm not that, folks. I'm not that. My commentary speaks for itself. It speaks for myself. This person, Mago, a rapist if ever there was one. This person, by the way, and this is how you know someone's a rapist, first, folks. This is, first of all, both of them I think are probably rapists, and they're abusive to women. This dipstick's not married, by the way. In his 50s, not married. I couldn't imagine him being married, because God forbid a woman say, well, I think that Russia's being a bully, and what he would have done to her, how he would have bullied to her if she would have said anything to the contrary. He's so vested that he is in defending Russia and Putin. But this one, when I was trying to take it to this commentator, Mark Level, had to come in on his behalf, as he has here, and call me a woman. He called me a girl. He said I was a señorita. And my experience in life, every time, that reveals somebody's character. When they insult somebody by calling them a female, a woman, a girl, it shows their character. And their character is that of a rapist. Their character is that of a misogynist. Nay, their character is that of a pedophile. So as far as I'm concerned, this Mago and this Mark Level are pedophile rapists. And this jackass here says in his comment to me, he says, it's too bad I never met you face to face. Believe me, it's not too bad, pal. Yeah, I assure you it's not too bad. If I met either you or this Mago face to face, I'm glad I never will. I'm glad I never have, because I would be in jail. I would be in jail, and you would either be no more or you'd be disabled for life. So I'm actually glad we'd have never met face to face. Plus, I don't like the company of racist pedophiles. Okay, so yeah. No, it's not too bad we never met face to face. It's a good thing for both of us we never met face to face. You prick. You and your buddy. I should say you and your buddies here in the comment section. You hypocrites. You absolute cowardly hypocrites. You're cowards through and through. Good God. This is the reason, folks, there can never be a revolution, or one of the reasons. This is who you would have to rely on to get your back, and they would never get your back. They adore bullies in power, these so-called lefties, every bit as much as the fascists do. On the political theory spectrum, it's like the horseshoe. They're so close together, they're nearly touching. And the lukewarm leftists are the ones that, don't necessarily agree with this Mark level. They stay silent. Why? Because they're cowards too. You wouldn't want them to be on your side either. There are no fighters here. There are no fighters whatsoever. There's no backbone here whatsoever. There could be no revolution. This is just one of the reasons why. There's many. Anyway, that's it for now. Take care, everybody. Bye.